The first time Elias Mercer saw the alien girl, she was on her knees in the dust of Dock 9, a thin collar of dull metal glowing faintly around her throat. The auctioneer's voice boomed over the crowd, rattling off her physical strengths, her adaptability, and the price her labor could fetch in the outer colonies. No one mentioned her name. Slaves rarely had one worth remembering. Elias hadn't planned to stop. He was a systems engineer, hired to repair a failing fusion grid on the frontier world of Kepri 7, and Dock 9 was merely a shortcut back to a ship. But something about the alien's posture made him slow. She did not cower like the others. Her spine was straight, her gaze level, eyes like polished amber staring past the crowd as if she were memorizing the sky she might never see again. A bidder raised the price. The collar flared and she flinched, not in pain, but in warning. Elias felt his jaw tighten. Slavery was legal this far from Earth, justified as contracted servitude for non-human species. He had ignored it before. He told himself it wasn't his fight. Then the auctioneer laughed and demonstrated the collar's control, sending a shock through her body. The alien cried out once, a sharp sound that cut through Elias like a blade. "Stop," Elias said before he could reconsider. The auctioneer turned, annoyed. "You bidding, human?" Elias didn't have much money, but he had enough. Enough to end the auction. Enough to buy one life back from the edge. When the transaction was complete, the collar's control transferred to his Iden chip. The alien rose slowly, wary, waiting for her next command. "I'm not your master," Elias said quietly as he led her away. "I'm setting you free." Freedom, it turned out, was complicated. The collar couldn't simply be removed without killing her. It was bonded to her nervous system. But Elias could deactivate the punishment protocols. He gave her food, clothes, and a place to sleep aboard his small repair vessel. She spoke little, her language a musical pattern of clicks and tones that his translator struggled to parse. "My name is Elias," he said one night as they sat in the ship's common bay. "What's yours?" She hesitated, then touched her chest. "Salith," the translator finally rendered. She told him fragments of her story over the next few days. Her people were called the Alvari, a species known for their rare bioenergetic abilities. Raiders had destroyed her village and sold survivors into bondage. The collar suppressed her powers, making her valuable but harmless. When Elias finished his contract on Kepri 7, he faced a choice. He could leave Salith on a planet where slavery still thrived, or he could risk helping her escape entirely. He chose the latter, plotting a course beyond regulated space, toward a network of free systems where collars were illegal. They were almost there when the patrol ship intercepted them. The authorities didn't bother with explanations. Harboring an alien slave was a crime. Elias was thrown into a holding cell, bruised and bleeding. Through the bars, he saw Salith dragged away, the collar flaring as she struggled. "I'm sorry," he whispered, the words useless and small. He never saw her again. Months passed. Elias was fined, blacklisted, and stripped of his engineering licenses. He drifted from station to station, taking menial repair work, haunted by the memory of amber eyes and a promise he had failed to keep. He assumed Salith had been sold again or worse. Then one night the stars changed. Elias was alone in a decaying orbital habitat when the lights flickered and died. Alarms screamed. Outside the viewport, space rippled like water, bending inward toward a point of impossible brightness. A ship emerged, sleek, organic, glowing with lines of living light. It hailed him directly. "Elias Mercer," said a familiar voice, now layered with power. "Do not be afraid." She appeared on his screen, no longer thin or bound. Salith stood tall, adorned in flowing armor that shimmered like liquid gold. The collar was gone. She told him everything. After being taken from him, she had been delivered to an Avari resistance cell hidden within the slave trade itself. Her people had been waiting centuries for the return of their empress, an individual born once in generations with the ability to awaken the full bioenergetic potential of the Avari. The collar had suppressed the signs, but Elias's act of mercy, his deactivation of its punishment systems, had allowed her powers to stir. "You showed compassion when none was required," Salith said. "That choice changed the current of my fate." Under her leadership, the Avari had risen. They shattered the slave networks, dismantled collars across dozens of systems, and built a fleet powered by living energy. Now, they were ready to reveal themselves to the wider galaxy. "And you?" Elias asked quietly. "Why come back to me?" Salith smiled, and the station's dead lights flickered back to life. Consoles hummed, systems repairing themselves without tools or wires. "My gift," she said, "is power returned." She extended her hand, and Elias felt something awaken within him, a resonance, a clarity he had never known. She had altered him at a fundamental level, granting him the ability to interface with Avari technology, to heal machines and structures as she healed living beings. "You are no slave," Salith continued. "You are an ally, a bridge between our peoples." In the days that followed, Elias traveled with the Avari fleet, helping establish peaceful contact with human worlds. His gift made him invaluable, but it was Salith's presence that truly changed everything. She ruled not with fear, but with the same mercy he had once shown her. When the last treaty was signed and the final slave collar deactivated, Salith stood beside Elias on the observation deck of her flagship. "The galaxy is changing," she said, "and it began with a single choice on a dusty dock." Elias looked out at the stars, no longer distant or cold. "I didn't save you," he said. "I just did what felt right." Salith placed a hand over his heart, where the energy she had given him pulsed softly. "Sometimes," she replied, "that is enough to change everything." And as the fleet moved forward into a freer age, Elias understood the true weight of her gift, not power over others, but the power to choose mercy and to watch it echo across the universe. The final slave collar was destroyed on a forgotten moon orbiting a dying star. Elias stood beside Salith as the device dissolved into ash, its control signal fading from the galaxy forever. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. The silence felt sacred, earned. Across the stars, news spread quickly. Worlds that had profited from bondage trembled. Empires that had built their wealth on chains quietly collapsed. And in their place, something new began to rise. Salith was crowned empress of the Avari, not in a palace, but beneath open sky. No throne, no weapons, only witnesses. When the crowd bowed, she did not command it. She asked them to stand. "We will never become what hunted us," she said. "Power exists to protect, not to dominate." Elias watched from the edge, his role complete, or so he thought. That night, as the fleet prepared to depart, Salith found him alone, staring at the stars. "You could stay," she said. "The gift I gave you will fade if you return to human space. It was never meant to last forever." Elias smiled faintly. Then it was never the real gift. She studied him, searching. "What will you do?" "I'll tell the truth," he said, "about what slavery really costs, about what mercy can become. Humans listen better when one of their own speaks." Salith nodded, eyes shining. Slowly, she placed her hand over his chest one last time. The warmth he had grown used to dimmed, but did not disappear entirely. "I cannot give you my power forever," she said softly. but I can give you something better. She leaned forward, touching her forehead to his. Hope surged through him, not as energy, not as strength, but as certainty. When Elias returned to human space, he was no longer just an engineer. He became a symbol, a man who once chose kindness when cruelty was easier. Laws changed, borders opened, and whenever negotiations failed, leaders whispered the same truth. Mercy once freed an empress. Imagine what it could do again. Far beyond those worlds, Salith watched a young, Avari child laugh beneath an unchained sky. She closed her eyes, feeling the echo of a single human choice ripple endlessly outward. One act of mercy, one gift of power, and a galaxy that would never be the same again.